Yes,
but
ma'am.
we are expecting more than 100. Huh?
Few more minutes, ma'am.
ठीक है. That's not an issue. So how are you, Anjali?
Carrying on. I've rejoined work, so it's quite busy.
Yes, I can imagine the load on you with so many people waiting for so many months to get proper treatment. No.
Yes, they've been quite neglected, especially children. Because there's the thing of sitting in front of screens and all that, headache problems and all that, and parents have to really decide whether they want to get their children to the doctor or keep them safe. How this thing.
Yeah.
Can I ask if it's still true that COVID comes through the eyes? Is that still true? Because people seem to be talking about that so much less.
So you're absolutely right. The eyes have these ACE2 receptors,
Right.
through which COVID comes in, but that's not a high level portal of entry. It's the nose throat complex. But yes, that could be one of this thing, but very small part it played.
So that's why they stopped. People stopped wearing visors and all that as much. Also, the fomites, the CDC said, is not such a primary mode of transmission. Right?
Yes, because the receptors are less. Here they are much more in the lungs and the tract, those ACE receptors.
Yeah, now we have some respite, but I don't know how long.
No, so many new things are coming up. There's this, mucor which is coming up now, involving the nose, the eyes, sometimes the brain, the black fungus and all that, so many new things coming up.
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay, we have to start valuing nature and human life both. That's the only way to survive all this.
And healthcare. I mean, honestly, this government didn't fund healthcare. It was a 3% before of GDP, which is in any case ridiculously low. And they cut it even further. I mean, ye kaun karta hai? Who does that?
Yes, but actual expenditure is only 1.7%. And last year, in fact, after the last budget, even Subramaniam Swamy, who's their own Hawaiian person, came up with this whole statistics about how it is an eyewash, the health allocations. And it was quite something for everyone to read his article about, why India is not doing enough healthcare. It's really, I don't know where we are going to end up with all this if we don't care for our own people. And, between the vaccination, today only I was talking to some India people, and it's 17% already is gap between men getting vaccination and women getting vaccination. Yeah. So 17% less women have got vaccination so far. This is official data, but I can tell you, we know people around us whose father have gone, son has gone with the father, but daughter and the wife is at home and not been vaccinated. And in Delhi, forget about Bihar, that everybody talks about Bihar, UP and all that stuff, but in Delhi, this is what is happening. Totally unacceptable. Yeah. Okay, Mansi, we have almost reaching how much? 80?
75, 80.
Acha, theek hai. You can start now. Let's not waste time. Let people come in slowly. We can go ahead.
This is 5 to 6, right, Mansiji?
Yes.
Okay. Are you ready, Mansi?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Let people join.
Please come to our first slide. Yes, on behalf of Center for Social Research and our entire team, I welcome our distinguished panelists and valued participants to today's webinar on legal and other barriers to justice for women. Before we begin today's session, let me introduce you to the distinguished panelists today. We have amongst us Advocate Karuna Nundy, who is in Supreme Court, practicing in Supreme Court, and also an international lawyer who has argued and owned landmark cases in constitutional, media, and gender law. Described by Force magazine as a mind that matters, and by the Times of India as a feminist leading the new way. Ms. Nundy is a key leader of legal change for women's freedom and power in India. She holds an economic degree from St. Stephen's College and law degree from Cambridge University and the Columbia School of Law. I welcome Advocate Karuna Nundy to the session. We have amongst us our second panelist is Dr. Anjali Mehta, an ex-army eye surgeon, is an alumnus of Armed Forces Medical College, Pune. She also concurrently works for women's safety and empowerment. She is the founder trustee of Sagar Trust, has co-founded a civil society platform called Justice Seekers in the aftermath of Nirbhaya's gang rape. She is a member of several women's advocacy groups and committees and has worked with families of sexual abuse victims and survivors. Dr. Anjali led the social initiative program for the Women's Ophthalmic Society of India for a year. Anjali has publications in peer-reviewed journals, has taught and presented at several national medical conferences. Then we have amongst us Priyanka Kanpal, a senior correspondent with News 18 India. She is a journalist with work experience of more than a decade. She has worked with channels like Aastak and India TV, and currently looking after Delhi government's education ministry and issues related to women in society, along with DCW and NCW. Network 18 Group has recently awarded her for reporting and coverage during the corona pandemic. Let me briefly highlight some of our activities during the pandemic to combat violence against women and to ensure accessibility of public healthcare facilities to women. So before that, nonetheless and nevertheless, we have amongst us our director, Dr. Ranjana Kumari, who needs no introduction at all. She is in the, she has served the society and has been an active member of all women groups and vocal against 33% reservation for women in parliament and state assemblies. Dr. Ranjana Kumari, she is director CSR, Center for Social Research, and also president Women Power Connect. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So with this, we come to our COVID relief response work. So as you can see from the slide, that we have amongst us that time from Dr. K.K. Agrawal. K.K. Agrawal has addressed several of our field motivators, our community active men and women on issues of health and hygiene and how not to panic and to take care of COVID pandemic during this phase of our COVID relief response project phase 1 and phase 2. As you can see, we have distributed almost 5,000 hygienic kits, including sanitary napkins. As you can see from the description, we have hand sanitizers, we have hand wash, soaps, napkins, N95 masks, normal surgical masks, and also sanitary napkins, keeping in view women's need and their demand. And also you can see from the picture that we have conducted several online trainings, motivation workshops for field level workers and community men and women. Besides that, we have also reached out to ASA Anganwadi workers, the frontline healthcare workers, on their mental well-being. You see, they have been pushed into 24/7 work without any prior knowledge, without any prior training. So they were also in a panic situation when community behaved with them negatively and responded to them negatively, particularly the families of COVID survivors and the landlords, like they have been thrown out from buildings not to reach there and to declare that the family has COVID. So because the stigma has been attached to it. So these things we have done. apart from the major work of e-counseling. We are the nodal agency from National Commission for Women to provide e-counseling to domestic violence, IPV and GBV survivors during this pandemic. And we have reached out to almost 250 cases within 6 months of our existence, so that you can imagine the volume of the cases that is coming up. So coming to the context of today's webinar, please show the third slide, please. So yeah, coming to the volume of the cases, violence against women and girls in India. So there are 53% rise in crime against women in 2020. If you take the cases, it is 1,411 to rose to 2,165 cases per month after the lockdown has been imposed. So 1 in 3 women has experienced some sort of violence during their lifetime, as we know from our research studies. 92.9% cases of crime against women are pending in city courts during this phase. 70% of the working women do not report sexual harassment cases at workplace. So whichever cases have been reported, their conviction is very low. As per the record, we know that every 16 minutes, a woman has been raped in India's domestic violence complaints doubled during this pandemic. To set the context, we have this data in view. So with this, I welcome our director, Dr. Anjana Kumari, to throw light on today's topic. Welcome.
Thank you, Mansi, for introducing our work during this period, and also, talking about the situation in the country. In fact, we have all the three different perspectives that we have brought together. One would be, of course, talking from the legal perspective, another, the way media has not really focused on the issues, and many such cases have been completely ignored, and also that how
Ma'am, we couldn't hear you. Ma'am? Ma'am, probably you are muted.
She's just joining in.
Okay.
I'm really sorry about this. I just internet, something must have happened there. Okay, sorry. So I was just going to say that these cases have increased. On the other side, the reporting has not happened. And from Anjali, we will be looking at the perspective from the women's group side, and also how we are from civil society organizations have managed to respond to some of these cases. So that's why we have a very comprehensive team of speakers who will analyze. Most important thing where I want to draw your attention to is this recent case for which we all were initially from the very day one were supporting the victim, the survivor, and also the way the court in Goa delivered the judgment about, you know what I'm mentioning about the Tarun Tejpal case. This was a case in point where a very young person mustered the courage to speak, to not only speak, but take the whole case and ask for justice, went to the court and asked for justice. Not only that, when you look at the cases in Unnao, in Barabanki, in many districts where girls have been violated and have not been getting the justice at all. In fact, on the contrary, now there is a mindset that really somehow is blaming and trying to put the total blame on the girls. So why this is happening? What kind of when you have evidence, when you have the way women are trying to fight back, why it is happening is a big question, even in my mind after 4 decades of work. That what kind of even in dowry cases, I don't know how many of you know, but as Mahila Dakshta Samiti, we managed to contest 52 cases, and you will be shocked to know that just a few years back, till 3 years back, there were 2 cases even pending in Supreme Court. In spite of all our effort, and most of those cases, women did not get justice. And so I personal experience to professional experience to, talking to a lot of women, and now in this period, women, the way women have been ignored and their issues have not come in the forefront, whether it is media, whether it is judiciary, whether total criminal justice system almost feels like is disposed against women. Somehow when you walk in, you are looked at with suspicion. You may be too smart. If you're complaining about sexual harassment, if you're complaining about rape, maybe you are, trying to frame someone. And in this case, and why? Because someone in these 2 cases, MJ Akbar or in this case of Tarun Tejpal, basically the person is coming from a very high, so-called dignified position, very, someone who how can someone like that do something so wrong? And also on one side, that you're questioning such a person who holds a position of responsibility, who comes from very dignified background, who's very well educated, who wields power. And on the other side, well, you didn't behave the way you should have behaved after having been assaulted. But normally, I know from my own experience of university days, as well as from, as an activist, even when you're walking on the street or roadside, when somebody comes and molests you, or somebody pushes you in the bus from the back, somebody is doing, women try to look as normal as possible, because, they know there is a stigma. What will others think? What will people looking at me think? And I think in the letter that I was reading very carefully, Karuna will throw some light on that. When this young person is trying to write against the editor, she's saying the same thing. She said that I tried to normalize myself as much as I could. Number one. So when you try to normalize yourself, then you really want to look completely normal before other people, that nothing has happened to me. And also and then it's unfortunate it's a woman judge. I don't want to get into all that. But look at the way and how ridiculous and how, I think there is a sick mindset which is really prevailing in our justice delivery system as well criminal justice system. Totally sick mindset when you are trying to make blame the woman for having the courage to say what she is wanting to say. It's really, it's really sad statement on the way at the moment we are looking at women being treated by the, when you walk into the court to write a FIR, to when you are really reaching the stage where you are getting a judgment from different courts. Not only that, even dowry law has been diluted. Anything which we fought for over decades and decades, we were on the street and all those systems are now somewhere there's a loophole. There is somewhere that it's not coming. So I think at this stage, my question is to, and where we should ponder on is what is going wrong? What is happening? Is it, and how they are trying to silence women, why it is. This is not just one judgment. This is not just telling one woman that, you were wrong or you didn't behave the way you should have behaved, but it is telling women across the country that, look, already women are silenced. Women are already put under a lot of social, familial, cultural, all kinds of pressures. And now when you are out saying something, then, all women will be silenced. They are just not having that kind of support system, neither wherewithal nor, anything which they can depend on. So they will be all silenced. So this is what my question is, that where and what is going wrong? What is this judicial mindset? I think, Karuna, I would like you to throw some light on that. And then, of course, then we look at what is this media's mindset, which, just wrote it off just like that. Everybody felt, and I can tell you, I speak to a lot of media on a regular basis, and I can tell you that when they were coming for questions to me and when they were interviewing, a lot of them, after speaking to them, I told them, please don't print whatever, I want to say. I don't want to be seen on your channel, because what you are trying to do is some kind of a victory that you have achieved by, from day one. Look, we were saying that this was wrong. We were saying it couldn't be him. So I think it's just the way the media's mindset is working at the moment. First of all, ignoring such cases, then not reporting it, then blaming women from their side also. Very few people have the courage at the moment to call it, really support and stand by women. So that's India's mindset. And then, of course, from the civil society, as we are all feeling the limitation of not walking on the street, not being able to protest, and nobody's listening. Somehow I am getting that sense nobody's listening, even if we are working very hard through social media and through, this whole using the technology. It's very difficult to unless, and I feel more convinced when I'm on the street and I'm able to confront people and say, look, this is how we have been wronged as women over the centuries, and now it's much worse, because after giving us all those promises of these laws and all kinds of support systems, you are still not doing anything for us, or we are in fact, instead of justice, women are meted out with, there is no justice for women. This is my conclusion. So please go ahead and have the discussion. I will be only participating as a listener. I have taken a lot of all your time, and let's see how it's going to be, what should we all do? That should be the conclusion of this discussion. Thank you very much. Mansi, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for highlighting the issues and the concerns, since you have worked so much in the field level to reach out to women who are from the underserved community and to provide them justice. So with that, I'm coming to our first panelist, Advocate Karuna Nundy. So this question is for you, do you think the current framework, legislative framework, is robust enough for providing justice to women, when they're suffering from violence against women?
Hello, everyone. I can hear the discouraged sound in Dr. Kumari's voice, right? And we've just seen data on the increasing gaps. We were just talking about how women are being vaccinated at a rate that is 70% less than men. The domestic violence has increased. The problems have gotten harder, not easier. And yet, Priya Ramani went to court and a number of women stood with her. And she went to court against somebody who was a sitting minister of the ruling party. She stuck it out. The media stuck with her. A large number of other people stuck with her. And what did the court say? The court said that you can choose your forum. You can choose your forum. A lot of people say you didn't go to court. You chose social media. But this magistrate's court stood with her and said, you can choose your forum. Let's also not forget Rupan Deol Bajaj. Rupan Deol Bajaj, who was one of the first people who got a conviction under Section 509. Think of the odds that she had against her. She was one of the senior most bureaucrats in Punjab. And she took on the person who was then the lion of Punjab, somebody who quashed terrorism and who was a national hero. And when she later told people that he patted my bottom, they said, that's it, you want to give up your image, your career, your dignity for that? And she said, it's not my dignity, it's his, right? And she fought, because at the first instance, she did not win. She was forced to file a private complaint. It was very difficult. The FIR route was very difficult. And she went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And that is when she won. And we got this, something that supports us to this day. Where are we going wrong? I think that, when we were, many of us here even, were working on the reform of the anti-rape laws after the Nirbhaya gang rape and murder. I remember having a conversation with one of the sitting ministers at the time who was responsible for the legal reform. And he said, सोना जी एक बात बताइए कि यहाँ पे हम ऑर्डिनेंस तो हमने पास कर दिया कल और सीलमपुर में रेप हुआ, and ये ऐसा क्यों? Now the thing that we've got to remember is that passing laws is never enough. Never, right? And that is where we fail. One of our biggest failures is that we fail to have structures of accountability after the passing of laws. We fail to look at structures that make sure that those laws are implemented. Now, what structures are we speaking of? I'm going to talk about three things here. One is that in juvenile justice, for example, there are particular laws in Brazil and also a juvenile justice legislation in South Africa. What they did was that they sat down all the ministries and all the agencies, really, as well as civil society, that was responsible for the implementation of the bill before it became law, right? So what they had was they had not just the Ministry of Women and Child or Social Justice and Empowerment, whatever it may be. They had Ministry of Education. What does the Education Ministry need to do? Does it have a role? Is roads are gendered? Do roads have a role here? Does the Transport Ministry have a role here? What does the police need to do? Do you need more women? Do you need more queer people, depending on what the law is? Do you need more training? That's almost always true, right? When there's a new law that you need more training. So they sat everybody down, and then you had stakeholders feeding into the bill. And once they fed into the bill, they were stakeholders in the bill. The bill then therefore evolved as a result of that, because then the people who were making the bill were also listening to the stakeholders about what they needed to make it work, right? Not that everything they wanted was going to go into it, but then listening to what they needed to really structure it. Subsequent to that, and this I think is one of the most important steps, is that a finance bill is always tabled with a crime bill, right? Now we think of these things when we think of education, when we think of health. We don't think of these things often enough when we think of the criminal law. And we've got to start yesterday, you know? The second thing is, I think, making violence against women a judicial and a police priority. Yesterday, I was discussing the judgment that came out in Madras, on the Madras High Court, where the judge spoke about his own Brahminical heteropatriarchal background. And he said that he himself was someone who could not envisage even speaking to a gay person, that he wouldn't know what to do, right? When this case came before him. And so then this case comes before him, and he started on a journey of enlightenment. He called these two people his gurus, right? Like the two queer people who sort of mentored him through this process. Now, this is not something that judges can do one-off, right? This is something that the National Judicial Academy and the state judicial academies exist to provide structure towards. So I think what needs to happen is that, but one very important thing happened with this judgment, with Justice Anand Venkatesh's judgment, which is that he took down the veil of judicial neutrality, right? And it's a veil that is thin, it's true, because even in the Aparna Bhatt judgment in the Supreme Court, where they looked at a large number of judgments where this heteropatriarchy comes in, where they speak of isko rakhi pehna do, usne pehna kya tha, उसने मेडिकल टेस्ट मेडिकल लीगल एमएलसी नहीं कराया, you know. So in all of that, the people who make the decisions to enforce the law, whether it's the judiciary or whether it's the police, must be, one, held accountable. And what does being accountable mean? It means that when you are looking at a trial or sessions judge, when the High Court is looking at a trial or sessions judge, you look at all their judgments and you see, are they meeting the standard of constitutionality? Are you placing the power of the state in service of the disadvantaged, in service of women, in service of Dalits, in service of Muslims and Christians and people of other religions, in service of queer people? Or are you, by not doing that, reinforcing the might is right principle that is in society? Now, how do we do this? At the recruitment stage, when judges or police are recruited, you can't just say, how many laws do you know? Or in the case of the police, aapka kad kitna hai, aapki chaudai kitni hai? You've got to ask and interview for that adherence to constitutional principles. You've got to promote and reward and penalize on this basis. So yes, we absolutely need more representation in the judiciary and in the police. I think that's a given. But it's not, that's a given because representation, bringing all the experiences on the table, is absolutely vital. It's absolutely not enough because all of these people, whoever they are, must also conform to the standards of constitutionality. It is absolutely vital. Now coming back to your original question, that is the legislative framework enough? No, it's not, because the largest number of women who are raped in the context of intimate partner violence, right? And about over 90% of the people who are raped in the context, or somebody's iTunes is on the screen, are raped in the context of marriage. And that is something that is still explicitly legal. I'm reading the case in the two cases in the Delhi High Court. And the government is saying that the institution of marriage is something that has to be protected. Therefore saying that, look, it's okay if you're raped, it's not okay if you complain about it, right? Other things, the Women's Reservation Bill, the fact that we don't have finance bills, and I come back to that because I think it's the biggest problem in implementation. We don't have good shelters. So if you are a woman who is being beaten up and wants to leave her marriage or wants to leave her parental home, where do you go? Those shelters, some of those shelters are like hell. I did an evaluation of a Nari Niketan for the National Human Rights Commission when I was always SD to the commission back in ages ago. I was working initially with Justice Verma on this. And it was custodial. What was bizarre to me was that you go to this Nari Niketan and you can't get out except with a magistrate's order, right? And वहाँ पे आप जाते हो, आपको क्या सिखाते हैं? आपको सिलाई सिखाते हैं, आपको वही tailoring, you know. And then there was actually a fantastic woman who was from LSR who was the running it, and she was doing her best. It's not, you know, she was a smart person, she was hardworking, she was doing her best. But it was the structures within which this Nari Niketan was placed that was, it was really hard. So would any of us, if we were homeless, ever go to a Nari Niketan? I can't even imagine thinking about it. It's not even something it would occur to me to send someone there, you know, the most destitute client, right? So what have we got in terms of shelters? Where do you go if you're being beaten? Where do you go if you're being raped and your family will not take you and support you? What avenues are there for you to receive a stipend from the state or to, while you find your feet, and to find a way to join the workforce? Because let us not forget that the workforce participation rate in India has gone down from 35% in the 1990s to 25% today. And that rate in Delhi is now 11%. It's way lower than the rest of India. So where are we going wrong? Where are we going wrong is that we are failing to, the government, successive governments are failing to do their work and take down patriarchy, because that is their work. That is why they exist. There is a war against women going on in our homes, in our streets, and I think that governments need to be held accountable for that, and governments need to be made accountable for that.
Karunaji, I was almost about to ask about what and where the problem lies, but almost you have answered it. So coming to Dr. Anjali Mehta and Priyanka ji, why do you think particularly in rape cases the prosecution is so low? What are the causes? What do you think?
Who would like to go first?
You please.
Okay. So, of course, it's a plethora of cases which Karuna has, beautifully highlighted that, it's from your basic living in society to the courtroom to the government. She's just, described the sweep so beautifully. So I'd just like to, talk about on the ground things, which people as us face. I mean, a little away from the court. So I'll just dwell on two aspects: evidence collection and witness intimidation, something where I've seen. So one of the things which bothers me as a doctor is, when we don't get samples on time, we don't get reports on time, we just can't treat the patient. Similarly, so many people get away because of lack of evidence. And we have about 7 CFSLs, forensic laboratories, some district ones, some state ones. Now they've started one a private person, and it's very nicely named Truth Labs, which gives you the report of the sample. But it's woefully inadequate, and the waiting period is 2 to 5 years. My question is, why are we comfortable with it? It's absurd. A waiting period in the judiciary 2 to 5 years for sample reporting, and we are not doing anything about it. So here is where the courts have to step in. Just as they've talked about COVID relief, vaccination, they have to give out a mandate to the public that, the authorities, the various governments, that there have to be enough more lab sanction. It's not difficult to sanction a lab. We worked out the cost. It takes just about 1 crore, which is nothing. So have 20, 30 other labs so that the maximum time for processing a sample is 15 days. And that should be done ASAP. It's not difficult to do. The second thing I find is that the investigating officer itself, there are so many prejudices. The case doesn't even go into the courts to the second step. The collection of evidence is so bad because, as Karuna rightly pointed out, the investigating officers are so prejudiced. My own nurse got badly beaten up. She was in a parking scrap. I mean, in the sense her husband had a parking scrap with someone and she was trying to save him. So the neighbor beat her up very badly. And I had gone to the, SHO. And the investigating officer openly told her, he says कि ठीक है आपके मुंह पे लगी है आपके हाथ पे लगी है but I mean आप मरे तो नहीं हो आपको कोई serious injury तो नहीं हुई hospitalization की जरूरत नहीं हुई मैं इसके लिए इसको जेल क्यों भेजूं. So their attitude is horrible. Similarly, people tell me, I accompany many of my people who are working with me, staff, when they have problems to the police station, and I find the same attitude. These people tell me, ma'am, koi serious case hai, koi mara hai, tab, otherwise don't waste my time. And I tell them as a doctor, that's a ridiculous attitude, because if doctors were to say कि ठीक है आपको headache है दिख नहीं रहा जब तक आपको आप मर नहीं रहे आप डॉक्टर्स के पास नहीं आओ, that would be a very ridiculous thing. There's so much burden of morbidity. So I completely agree with Karuna that prevention is better than a cure. And she said what resonated totally what I was going to say, that why are we only, when we recruit police officers, why is it only the physical aspect? Nowadays it's irrelevant. We fought for women getting into the army because you need mind, there's sophisticated weaponry, it's no more bronze. So the recruitment has to be much more sophisticated. You have to see the EQ of the person, the IQ of the person, and presence of mind, like you do in all your CAT exams, law exams, this thing exams. So you have to have a different recruitment system rather than getting in, brawny people who are not sensitive and then sitting and doing hundreds and hundreds of gender sensitization programs on them. So instead of wasting money and time, prevention is better than a cure. And of course, Priyanka will speak about other aspects, but one basic aspect I'd like the judiciary to address, that what is their, idea for addressing the backlog. There are 3.6 crore backlog of cases. So like in medicine, when we have a cataract backlog, we have some other disease problem, there's a proper national program that this is the backlog. This is what we are planning to do in this many days. I have not come across any such program put out formally by the judiciary that in 10 years we hope to close the gap, or in 5 years we hope to close this much gap.
There is. It's not very successful, but it exists.
Right. And so, if they can just work on that, maybe double shifts morning shift, evening shift, make sure that the judges, the vacancies are totally filled and stuff like that, because that itself, the length of the thing is very intimidating.
Priyanka ji, how do you think you can improve it? We can
I'll, I'll
improve it.
I'll just add a point on what Karuna was saying. I'll just state my personal experience here. So I was just 16 years old, I guess, and that was my first time I was traveling in a DTC bus. I was trying to get admission in Delhi University. So me and my best friend were traveling in the DTC bus for the first time. Not only we got caught like catcalled, we were molested by whom? By those people who were going there to give exams for Delhi police. So where we are talking about these kind of incidences, Karuna is right when she says it's not about your fitness only. It's not about how much kilometer can you run. So you need to see these aspects as well. We were just 16-year-old girls. We were just out for the first time. उससे पहले we were in our like parents की छाया में जाना है कहीं भी. So this was one experience. Anjali, as Anjali said, see, if you talk about like एक outer space की बात करें, तो there could be three things. Like she said, forensic labs, which we are lacking like anything. Fast track courts, because जैसे कि she just said कि बहुत backlog है. और जो investigators की हम बात कर रहे हैं, the way they mishandle things, I'll just go to the root cause because I'm a reporter. So what I have gathered through reporting in such cases. So I won't name any case, but let's take example of any rape case of UP, Rajasthan or Maharashtra, any place. So if the accused is powerful, if he has some political connections or money, or he is from upper caste, so there are 100% chances are there that the case would get diluted before it's get like एक एफआईआर होने से पहले ही वो मामला शांत हो जाने के चांसेस रहते हैं. वी हैव सीन इट, उन्नाव का केस वी हैव सीन इट. तो वहां फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हेन अ गर्ल डिसाइड्स टू मेक एन एफआईआर, एक कंप्लेन करने की वो जब कोशिश करती है, वो अपने आप का एक स्ट्रगल है. नॉट फॉर दोज गर्ल्स हु बिलोंग्स टू लोअर मिडिल क्लास, या जो जितनी ज्यादा पढ़ी लिखी होती हैं, उनको मुझे लगता है उनका स्ट्रगल और ज्यादा बड़ा होता है कि मेरे साथ कैसे हो गया. मतलब मैं तो लोगों से बात करती हूँ. आई नो पीपल, आई टॉक टू पीपल, हाउ डिड इट गो रॉन्ग विद मी. सिमिलरली इट हैपेंस विद अदर गर्ल्स एज वेल. सो पहला तो ट्रॉमा लड़की को अपने आप में झेलना है. देन पूरा करेज गैदर करके शी टेल्स अबाउट दिस थिंग टू हर फैमिली. देन शी हैड टू हैंडल हर family as well, because we have seen this in our society, like it's always a girl's fault. So she needs the courage to to tackle them as well. And itna kuch manage karne ke baad, when she goes to police station, and then the powerful accused, they use their power, they threaten the witnesses turns hostile. cases to apne aap kamzor ho jate hain. prosecution rate की बात तो तब आएगी जब एक मजबूत केस बनकर कोर्ट तक पहुंचेगा. So there I think जो gender sensitization की हम बात करते हैं, it's needed at the root level. We need to have people जिनको समझ आए कि how they need to talk in certain way. मुझे बहुत ज्यादा I'm like Karuna is here, पूरा legal वो समझ रही है, वो जान रही है. Anjali ji is here. I can only suggest, I think there could be one supervising authority kind of thing. Just for the rape cases, I'm saying, like a authority which will not only be governed by the officers, but they also have some social people in it, maybe some activists in it. The only work of the authority would be to supervise the ongoing rape cases, like what's the speed and the grievances, if the victim or victim family have any grievances, to address that. I think in the short term, until, see, we all are hopeful that our whole judicial system will change someday. We all will be gender sensitized someday. Till then, we can have these kind of supervising authorities which can only focus on rape related cases, and they can be help to victims family as well. So this is, I think, one of the things, apart from what Anjali has already said, that we need more forensic labs, we need investment there, and it all tells the priority जो प्राथमिकता जिसे कहते हैं गवर्नमेंट की, वो शो होती है यहाँ पर कि कितने ज्यादा they care for the second sex here. Second sex, it means us. क्या प्रायोरिटी है, किसके इलेक्शन में, किसके मैनिफेस्टो में क्या हमारे लिए चीजें हैं, ये सब हम देख चुके हैं. और ऐसे में when she is saying कि खर्चा भी 1 करोड़ से ज्यादा का नहीं है, then also we are waiting 2-3 years for reports. I mean, practicality में कहीं stand ही नहीं करता. तो रिफॉर्म्स के साथ साथ जो जेंडर सेंसिटाइजेशन है, सुपरविजन अथॉरिटीज का होना, आई थिंक कैन हेल्प।
थैंक यू प्रियंका जी, मुझे बहुत ये अच्छा लगा कि आप विक्टिम ब्लेमिंग के बारे में बात किए, आपने इम्प्रूवमेंट के बारे में बात किए। जो अभी की रिसेंट कोर्ट की कुछ जजमेंट्स आए हैं उसको थोड़ा कोई हाईलाइट करेंगे, एनी ऑफ आवर पैनलिस्ट?
I think Karuna ji has already said, वो silver lining वाला case we have, fair money case we have, we don't have everything going wrong, so we have at least one silver lining. But as we were talking
just
about
one silver lining. No, it's not just one silver lining. You know, you'd be surprised when you look at. I think it's really important, actually, when we have these discussions to. And I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to, but let me try and pull up some of the decisions that have more than silver linings, that they have our rights, right?
Okay, coming to our next question, what do you think can be done to improve trust in the criminal justice system to ensure that women get justice? As we know, through various research using intersectionalities, that the majority of crimes are inflicted on women from vulnerable groups. So how should that be addressed?
Having worked in this thing with a lot of people till Karuna is preparing an answer, I'd like to give you, one point from 4 aspects. And these are just solutions because we all know the problem. So at the village level, I feel that, there is a lot of problem with some communities. Some communities just snatch the power and become khap panchayats, and they are a nuisance. So these khap panchayats have to be replaced with village welfare committees like we had in the army and like we have in urban areas. We have our RWAs which help you with everything from electricity. So basically villages need RWAs. So there should be a small committee advising the sarpanch, and it should be made from, a cross section of all the castes and all that. So that is at the village level. And this committee will help, people filing cases, getting access to, legal recourse and everything else that the minority communities or the marginalized communities need. They find that help within the village. At the individual level, this is my second point, I feel that one very sort of a very neglected area is, the victim gets help, legal help, politicians come and say, okay, we'll, make sure that these rascals are fixed and all that. And there is the doctors come and help. But the biggest component of psychological support is missing. And that's, we sort of went to meet a survivor who had not been outside her room for 7 months. And then when we all met her and she felt, supported, bolstered by her presence, she went to the roof for the first time in 7 months. So this is a very, and like what people do is that they sort of refer you to the mental health institute where you're given a ton of antidepressants and then you spend the rest of your life sleeping. That is not getting back into this thing, So we have to get this survivor moving forward again, leave the incident behind and move forward. It becomes very difficult because of depression, because of so much criminal intimidation by all the people in the villages. The chachas and mamas form a self-help group and they intimidate the village. So we have to help the person move forward.
Yes.
Now, at the court level, there's one, as of course, Karuna has highlighted everything, but as a lay person, I think much more needs to rest on the public prosecutor. Abroad, it's a very glamorous thing and somehow they seem to be really sort of nailing it and all that. In India, there is a perception, maybe it's a misperception, that the public prosecutor is overworked. It's not a very high profile job. And, they have so many cases and not enough support. So one of the thoughts I had was that, the national law schools and all that, a capsule on the public prosecutor's office, how it works and all should be mandatory. Plus, by rotation, you can send some people to do internship there so that the person has a lot of support, because one person is looking after so many cases and mostly poor people have to just rely on the public prosecutor because they can't afford very expensive lawyers, some of which are here today. And lastly, at the national level, we have taken up an initiative. In fact, Dr. Ranjana also was a part of it. All of us collectively, the women's group, we had approached the minister and we had said, please make a data cell. And the purpose of the data cell is to track the survivors lifelong. So right now we have NCRB data which give us statistics that okay, so many people were murdered, so many were raped, but that's it. They don't tell you what happens afterwards. And all the NGOs, all the the people who are trying to support, the main thing is rehabilitation of the person. And we have no idea what happens to the person. We want to know whether they were successfully rehabilitated, did they get a job, did they sort of carry on with their lives. And it's all segmented. Like you have to rely on some newspaper report somewhere, some reporters go to Hathras to try and get some information about a case you're interested in, pata chala that they are only caught and locked up. So it's very difficult to have a comprehensive data about the person. So we want the shift from data just being numerical data to actually sort of telling you about the successful rehabilitation. And the moment the focus shifts to that, the rehabilitation part rather than just statistics, I think that will be a huge step forward.
Thank you, Dr. Anjali, for pointing out the lacuna in getting gender disaggregated data, either with NCW or with MWCD. Priyanka ji is very much interested to share something. Priyanka ji, over to you.
I was actually I was like I second what Anjali ji has said. ये victims का rehabilitation होना और सही से होना और उसके बारे में information होना मुझे लगता है बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है. Focus को उसी तरफ shift करने की जरूरत है. As you said कि data आ जाता है, but we need to know what happened to the survivor. Were they able to get a job? Were they shifted somewhere else? And as Karuna said, Nari Niketan is just no option. We have seen the sad states of Nari Niketan. A normal person, a normal girl like me can't even think of going there. So there need to be better options. There need to be better job opportunities, better rehabilitation programs for the survivors. This is what I just wanted to add.
Thank you, Priyanka ji. Coming to the next question, basically is that of information sharing. How can you improve the information sharing between agencies so that violence against women can be combated? Karuna ji.
I think that the fact, one silver lining during this pandemic is that a lot of people are being forced to work online, right? And so I'm sure that has had an impact on government, right? And governmental information systems. In terms of streamlining those, I think if you want to, it's not really a problem as long as you have your sort of privacy requirements in place, which often they don't. But I think that's a big positive. Though I'm not exactly sure what kind of information sharing you're thinking about, Dr. Mishra. What
Dr.
kind of
Anjali?
information sharing are we looking at?
Yes.
I think that as professionals, we can share our data. So, for example, that anybody has some violence happening to them, intimate partner violence, usually comes to a doctor first. And some people have actually generated data, like they found that 45% of the time eyes are involved, most of the injuries are on the face, 70% of the time the injuries are on the face. So we can contribute that sort of data to the judiciary, to the lawyers and all that, so that they are more mindful of the fact that if somebody's, or we can make maxillofacial surgeons, eye surgeons more aware that if people come to you with these sort of injuries, then you have to watch out for that. Very few hospitals have this integrated program where if they suspect that there is intimate partner violence involved, that they have a safe space where the lady can be taken away quietly. You can always say कि कोई special investigation कर रहे हैं and all that. Safe space, and tell her that if there is a problem, reach out to us. So mostly the doctors are heavily in their medical thing. There's only one MOTA, medical legal cell, where some big thing happens, road traffic accident, then medical legal cell will take care. But there's a huge need for integration of social and medical work, because it happens naturally. Another very undertapped resource I feel in data sharing is housewives, because earlier you had stool pigeons. Police used to go and catch hold of these stool pigeons and tell us what kya ho raha hai, in the underworld and all that. But as Karuna pointed out, that the violence is all around you. It's 30% is, the family and all that. So housewives are the repository of confidence of the, the people who are working in your home. They'll come and tell you what's happening in their lives and all that. So I think the police need to connect much more with professionals, with people in general. I think they tend to just, connect more with criminals or with their own sources of information. But if they just connect nicely with the public, they'll get such a wealth of information and they can use it.
Okay, since time is running out, the last question to all our panelists, can you underline some of the best practices of successful campaigns raising awareness and preventing gender-based violence through education?
I like the Bell Bajao campaign by Breakthrough. I felt that, so the Bell Bajao campaign is essentially that when there's domestic violence in the house, as a bystander, what can you do? And through their, extensive research, they found that one sort of non-confrontational intervention that didn't escalate the situation and did break the violence at a particular time was to go and ring the bell of your neighbor. And so that's something I thought was a very important intervention, because at a number of levels, right? One is that this ghar ki baat hai thing gets broken. And that by investing even that little bit of action and energy, the neighbor gets involved to some degree as a supporting factor. The second thing is that, and the most important thing is that a woman being beaten, she stops getting beaten, because the guy thinks that there's somebody watching and somebody's going to come in. And so I thought that was a very nice, clean, effective thing.
Priyanka ji, anything from your side, best practices?
I think again, I'll talk about the root causes. I think we need to have, like, nowadays we talk about sex education a lot. I think we need to have gender sensitizations chapters in our school, or maybe classes, special classes to the students, especially to the students of a government school, of the primary government schools. They are the vulnerable groups, and obviously there is we need to watch out for our web series content. We need to watch out for the things our children's, or like our children, or the young generation is seeing on air, on TV. We need to control that as much, because we know the age group. Okay, so I was saying these are two things which I think should be there. One, gender sensitization, and I think parents should be included in those classes as well, along with the teacher and the student. They should know about all these topics. And again, I'll repeat it: the government schools should have the like most of the participation should be from the government schools, especially primary government schools. Plus, as I was saying, and audit, or maybe control over the web series content, the content people see, like children see on internet, should be watched out. They should be watched for that.
Dr. Anjali, आपका कुछ views best practices के बारे में?
I'm also a great fan of Breakthrough and their campaigns. But one of my favorite campaigns, which I was a part of, was an intersectionality campaign where Raksha Bandhan was the theme. And the idea was that the best gift the boy can give his sister is actually to prevent her child marriage, to sort of oppose the parents or whoever the case. And how the medical aspect came into it, we sort of highlighted that in that when you get pregnant, when you're in the 15 to 19 age group, 18 age group, your chances of dying are 2-3 times higher during pregnancy. Then we highlighted that low birth weight is rampant in India. India has the highest number of low birth weight babies, and one of the causes is people getting into child marriage early. So it was a beautiful intersectional campaign where you have the medical side, you have the social side, and child marriage has a legal side. So some of these intersectional campaigns I feel are very beautiful.
Thank you. So now we can take some questions. Few questions maybe coming from coming from our valued participants. The first question, like Karuna ji, आपके लिए, why is rape cases not taken on priority basis and why justice taking a long time to give judgment?
It's not that they aren't taken on a priority basis. Sometimes a fast track court, very often fast track courts are set up to deal with rape cases, right? Bhagyashree ji, please put yourself on mute.
Yes, please put yourself on mute.
Now, the thing is that the problem is that the fast track court is usually the same court that is hearing the other cases that are not on fast track, right? So it just has its fast track court hat on for that case. The reason that when I spoke initially, I spoke about so the structural problems in general is for two reasons. One is that there's a huge, I think, overemphasis on rape, right? Why do I say this? Because, for example, some of the conversations I had around marital rape, I was talking to an older lady who's sort of by Indian standards, middle class, but otherwise, very working class actually. And she was saying, and I was talking to her about this, and she said that अच्छा मैं ना भी बोल सकती हूँ ऐसा भी होता है, right? So in terms of the violence that she experienced, it wasn't, I mean, I think the coercion in her case was that she could have said no, and then, I mean, I think the violence that she experienced in the world was not, the rape was not the worst of it, Like, I think beating for her would be a lot worse. I think that there's a way in which, in our national imagination, rape has become a thing. And I think that's a mistake. I think that in general, that violence against women, but also the other aspects of power for women, working, for example, right? We need to look at these things from the perspective, depending on the situation we're looking at, if it's an individual case or if it's a policy problem. We need to look at the context and see what is the most important thing here. So taking a step back now, you were talking about why does it take so long? Why does anything take so long? Because you don't have enough people working on it, and it's not, essentially you don't have enough good people working on it. Now, I remember when I was before a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Lodha. So it was a long time ago. And they were really holding the government up and saying that, look, there are all these posts that, that you need to fund, that you need to create, etc., and that you're not doing it. So I think it's a sort of problem of the appointment system, it's the collegium of the high courts, and that takes time. And we need more people, we need more bandwidth, and we need more good people to speed up justice, because just having more people isn't enough. We need more good people across the board.
One very interesting question for you, Dr. Anjali. One of our participants wrote, and wanted to know how our elected representatives can address violence against women.
Well, they have all the power to do so. They can ensure that they can legislate, they can ensure that the legislations are being followed. They can allot wisely. For example, I find that let's say elected representatives themselves get huge Z security for the flimsiest of reasons. But women, the witness protection program in India just came up very recently, and it's really difficult for these people to get witness protection, because it's a very short, it's just for 3 months. Then, someone has to say that, yes, I perceive there's a threat to you. And you have these people jumping out on bail and going and attacking the victim. So they can share their resources with the public, the elected representatives. they can take the gender thing seriously, gender, put gender budgeting into everything. And a lot of the finances, when they do the finance bills, as Karuna said, they give it a lot of thought. But they should think more in terms of women when they're doing the allotment, and I think just thinking more about women, and most importantly, the elected representatives being women, I think will go a long way, because so few women and so many men. Sometimes many of them don't even understand basic things like, that they say menstruation is unclean and all, they come up with such silly things. So I think there needs to be a lot of intermixing of male and female elected representatives. And it is, my dearest wish that more and more women get elected as representatives.
Priyanka ji, since you worked on this pandemic issue and during this pandemic on women issues, so this particular question to you, what are the special provisions for preventing violence against women during this COVID time?
See, provisions, so I think Karuna would be the right person to answer, but we have seen, during this pandemic time as well, NCW has, Rekha ji has stated this, she has tweeted about this, the domestic violence cases have, like, they just rose. And ye pura COVID ka time, jab people were actually having the good family time, it was not good for the women who were living in the house. So I think provisions ka, again, Karuna ji would be the right person to talk about it. But I think domestic violence, मैं इससे पहले वाले के इनफैक्ट जवाब देने के ज्यादा मूड में थी अंजलि जी वाले सवाल का. The first thing जो legislatives selected जिनको हम चुनते हैं वो कर सकते हैं, वो अपने घर से शुरुआत कर सकते हैं. We have seen it in many states. We have seen daughter-in-laws beaten up, और ये इन सब की शुरुआत वो अपने घर से कर सकते हैं. और अपनी टिकट के बदले जब आपकी टिकट वुमेन सीट हो गई तभी आप अपनी बीवी को खड़ा करेंगे या अपनी बहू को खड़ा करेंगे. उससे बेटर है कि आप उनको पहले ही चांस दें, जब वो वुमेन सीट नहीं है तो उनके लिए लड़े. तो घर से शुरुआत करेंगे तो अपने आप बाकी चीजें सब सही हो जाएंगी. दे हैव उनका एमपी लैट फंड हमेशा खराब होता है, एमएलए फंड हमेशा खराब होता है. दे कैन हेल्प इन मेनी वेज इफ अगेन नियत होनी चाहिए. देयर आर सेवरल वेज. Karuna ji would be the right person to talk about the provisions again.
Thank you, Priyanka ji, for pointing out that home and family of one's own is the first point of making rectification. Thank you. And Karuna ji, last anything, icing on the cake regarding the COVID pandemic provisions?
I think a lot of people are aware now, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? I think one of the most important things that this pandemic has highlighted is being trapped at home and the problem of domestic violence. And I think that safe shelters, places to go, places that somebody would want to go and take their children, and structures around that, ways to get out of those shelters, getting the YWCAs involved, the YMCAs involved, ways in which that these shelters can be made welcoming and supportive places. Also, stipends for women, I think. Stipends for women are extremely important. I think that these, if worked on now, will provide long-term and lasting impact. So, and will actually also get, possibly funding from government, because I think the awareness on the domestic violence issue is pretty good. So let's not let this crisis go to waste.
Thank you. Ma'am, Ranjana ma'am, anything from your side, ma'am? Ma'am, you are muted.
Okay, so thank you to all three of you for really covering different aspects as we were thinking. Actually, ये थोड़ा ज़्यादा फैल भी गया डिस्कशन क्योंकि कई चीजें साथ में आ गई. So I would think that we need to continue with this whole discussion, and especially we can't be doing something which we can't be not doing something, because COVID period is very easy to political and also politically correct to call pandemic within pandemic. All kinds of statements have been made, but who's really looking at this whole situation from a gender lens? Whether it is courtroom situation, whether it is home, whether it is police station, whether all the institutions connected with lives of women when it comes to violence against women. How are we going to talk about that? I mean, police reform, one of the things that, how do we really look at the entry point of the police and who should enter the police? All those issues have been in the discussion. And today we have again re-emphasized most of them. And I feel that after this discussion, as we said, one thing which I always feel is data. Because, the policies are made left, right, and center, or laws are made left, right, and center in absence of any really concrete data with us. And we lack that skill. And institutions are around, but we're not really getting the data about gender disaggregated data, whether it is in education, whether it is in crime, look at the way after 2 years we get to know what's happening to women, and unless it is presented in the parliament, and we don't even know what the data is going to be. Some kind of a reporting by the journalists from this newspaper or that newspaper, that becomes basis for our data. Even the 17% differential data between men and women in terms of vaccination is coming from the Wire, and Reuters write somewhere. And so I think it's important that institutions should involve themselves, and Government of India should support generating a whole data center. Last time, as Anjali says, we have taken this up. We were promised it will be done. Hopefully it will be done, that we will have a concrete data, and court should come out with this data about number of cases which they have dealt with. I don't think that kind of a collated data is there. Karuna, are you aware of something like that? That there is a data set which you can talk about? Yeah.
But the data set on the
kind of cases that court is dealing with and judgments delivered. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think
there are these
so
data
maybe
sets, and a lot of work
perhaps
has been done on this.
yes. So perhaps that kind of a data can be also made public, and I don't know, or you can even guide people to say where they can get this data. So that information comes to, it's become very difficult for us to get the court data in, unless we are very, some of us are very aware.
I'd be happy to have a conversation about it.
Okay. I think let's talk about that. And also now at the end of it, I would only say that we must continue this conversation. We must continue our action, and we must question as much as we can during this period, whatever platform we are getting, because unless we will do all that, and our fight should go on. I mean, in no way I feel that things are going to be, and post-COVID, I can't talk about it at the moment, but if things start to, change and lives start to change for everybody, then women's lives must also change. As you said, आजकल एक बड़ा dialogue चल रहा है कि opportunity in the disaster, what kind of opportunity are we seeing? What kind of a future are we seeing for our people? If that is something which we can look at, then I think we need to really keep talking about what's happening to women and how we can change it. Thank you, Mansi. And thank you for all of you on behalf of Center for Social Research to agree to be on this panel, and we'll continue this conversation and this dialogue again.
Thank you.
Ma'am, sorry for the interruption.
I request now all the panelists and all the participants.
Ruby's been wanting to ask a question for a really
Yes, Ruby, go ahead.
Ma'am, I have a question with Priyanka Khandepal, ma'am. As she said, the rape case get registered और वो sort out पहले ही हो जाता है if the rapist belong to upper caste or having a strong political connection. But in our country, I feel that कि कोई भी rape case अगर registered होता है तो why always political party has to jump? वो अगर upper caste का नहीं है तो lower caste का अगर है तो the ruling party, currently the ruling party is always for the general category, and the ex-ruling party always jump for the lower category SC people.
I think
there is always has to political party has to jump.
I think okay, maybe a lot of these questions you can send us as an email, And we are going to engage with you in this discussion, because we at the moment this is little bit, I mean, like we should be discussing it, but as we normally, our rule is to finish it in sharp in 1 hour, and we are almost gone 1 minute 35 seconds more. So let's close it, and please write to us at info1@csrindia.org or mansi@csrindia.org. Let me repeat it. I mean, I almost like in media you guys do. mansi@csrindia.org. Please write to us all your questions. We will be individually responding to all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you all the participants. I request my colleague Niharika and Subha to offer a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much all for joining us today. And I really enjoyed the discussion, and I really hope that you all also did the same. And please write to us about your questions. I know that a lot of questions have not been addressed during this session, but we'll try to answer each one of your questions. Please write to us via email, and we'll get back to you via email for your answers. So thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
See everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.